Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you've heard all over the news about the problem with a mechanic shortage and a pilot shortage in the aviation industry. You're going to meet the CEO of a company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that's coming to the rescue. His journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team. And the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I don't know about you, but I get nervous now when I fly, and it has nothing to do with a fear of flying. It has everything to do with, will my flight actually take off on time? Because there's a huge shortage of mechanics and pilots in the aviation industry. Every time you turn on the news, you hear something about it. But a man who is coming to the rescue, Mike Sykes, he's the CEO of US Aviation. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Well, timing is everything, and I would like to think that you had a crystal ball because you started your company in 2006.
That's correct, and I wish that I could say we had that kind of foresight and knew that this was coming and exactly where we needed to be, but it was the case. Just had an opportunity to launch into an aviation business and not sure where it would lead, but as time has developed, it has certainly been a case of being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and it's your service has become more necessary by the day. Tell us what US Aviation does.
Great. So US Aviation focuses on 2 things: providing pilots for the aviation industry, and then mechanics, the maintenance personnel. So our part in that process is getting the pilots the initial training that they need to make them qualified to land a job with usually one of the regional airlines.
Sure. Let's talk about why the problem became so acute during the pandemic. I know the airlines initially just laid off a bunch of people, and those people never came back.
Right. Once they took that early retirement, they left the industry, and so that's created a void. They've been talking for many years about a pilot shortage, and the large driver behind that is the retiring workforce. And so we have a mandatory retirement age of 65 for the commercial airlines. And so that's easy to predict. You can look at the demographic of your workforce and say, well, at this point in time, we're going to have a problem if we're not recruiting a certain number of personnel. But this has been talked about for decades, and they did kind of kick the can down the road a little bit several years back, because the retirement age was at age 60, and they pushed it to 65 and bought themselves a little bit of time. But where we stand today, it is a real challenge for the industry, and we're seeing it manifest itself in a number of ways, from canceled flights to reduced routes, but also increased compensation for the pilots.
Sure. More on that in a second. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
I was able to get my associate's degree through Tarrant County College, which is partnered with US Aviation, and I was able to do my private all the way through my CFII. During the 2 years at Tarrant County College, it's basically a rating per semester. So your private rating you'll get done in one semester, then your instrument in another, and then your commercial time building will be in one, and then your commercial training will be in another. Then your CFI and CFII are also each semester. So it goes by pretty quick. I would do the entire 2 years again. It's definitely worth it. And now I get to tell my students that whatever they're struggling with, they can do it.
And so as we saw in that video, you're actually partnering with schools?
Oh, we do. So the one that was highlighted there was with Tarrant County College, which has been a partner of ours for approximately 8 years. So in partnership with the college, they do the ground school element and the basic education, and we handle all the flight-related components, so providing the aircraft, the instructors, the maintenance of the aircraft.
Sure. And what are you seeing, in the next 10 years? Will the pilot shortage and mechanic shortage continue? Are there enough young people in high school who are thinking about a career in aviation?
It is certainly an area that's gaining interest with young folks because it's been talked about so much. Boeing does an annual projection of what they believe the need is for pilots and mechanics, doing a 20-year market outlook. And so they're still forecasting on a worldwide basis a need of about 650,000 pilots over this 20-year period of time. So that still is a significant amount of training that's to be done and new entrants into the market. And so we see the market as being very strong for years to come.
And while we're showing this, obviously those are small aircrafts. Are you training people on everything from the small ones to the commercial jets?
So no, our end of the process stops with the smaller aircraft. So a quick snapshot of that process, a student comes in, if they have no experience, they go through the process of first getting their private pilot's license, which is kind of the basic, allows them to fly an airplane by themselves. And then we add on what's called an instrument rating. So this is kind of the next step in that building block, gives them the capability to fly in inclement weather and kind of, again, a requirement as you move forward. And then a commercial pilot's license. And this allows them to fly for money, for being paid. And then we got to get a multi-engine license, so a twin-engine aircraft. And then generally, the students will get their instructor's certificate, so a certified flight instructor, which the critical point to that is once they finish all of their training, they'll have maybe 280 to 300 hours of time. But before the airlines can hire them, they must have 1,500 hours, or through a college program, maybe 1,250 hours. And so how do we cover that gap? How do they get that 1,200 hours or 1,000 hours that they need? The most common path is to be a flight instructor. And so that's the need for getting the flight instructor ratings. So they'll get their flight instructor certificates and then come to work for us or a company like ours across the U.S.
Outstanding. How many pilots are you graduating each year?
We have, about 550 pilots enrolled across all of our campuses. The college programs that we have are on a 2-year track. So kind of cut that number in half in terms of graduates. And then others who are not part of a collegiate program will complete in as fast as 9 months if they're very aggressive, and as long as 16, 18 months if they're kind of balancing it with other work life issues.
Let's transition now to the mechanic or maintenance shortage, because we've all been on an airplane before and we can't take off because we're waiting for some small widget to be fixed.
Sure.
How severe is the mechanic shortage right now?
In absolute numbers, it's slightly greater than the number of pilots needed, and so, but it's talked about much less. It is kind of the hidden problem in the industry that, again, without a pilot, the aircraft doesn't fly, but without a maintenance person to get the airplane ready to fly, it's certainly, that flight's not going to take place. And so the need is slightly greater. One of the differences is there's not a mandatory retirement age in the airline world for a mechanic, and so it's a little bit of a grayer area. Well, what's that workforce need going to be? But there's a practical side of it, which is somewhere in that mid-60s, folks are exiting the industry. And so based on kind of historic trends, again, the Boeing report predicts a need that's slightly in excess of that 650,000 maintenance personnel needed over the next 2 decades. And that's, again, on a worldwide basis.
Sure. For more on that, let's watch this video.
Why did I choose to become a mechanic? Well, it started early on. Always loved airplanes, lived near an airport when I was a kid. Wanted to get my hands on them as soon as possible.
Kind of started when you were younger, see airplanes flying around. It drove me to military side, worked on helicopters in the military, and when I got out, figured I'd do the same thing in the civilian world.
My dad still is an A&P mechanic, and he's done that my whole life. And then when I got my chance, I fell in love with it.
I like working with my hands. I don't like sitting at a desk all day and looking at data sheets.
It's very fulfilling work. You are taking an aircraft with passengers, pilots, air crews, and putting those people in the air with an aircraft that you may have done critical repairs to.
If you've got a plane that's down and it needs to get out, that's the first thing you jump on.
I really enjoy
plane, coming in with a problem and troubleshooting the problem, fixing it, and then seeing it fly. It's just really rewarding.
My favorite part about being in A&P is the people. Being a female in a male-dominated field has been relatively easy for me. I get along with the guys. We just kind of treat each other like family and get the job done.
I walk into the school and I don't think about the fact that I'm a girl. I'm here to learn to be a mechanic.
Current industry projections show that the number of mechanics being produced by schools and the military globally is being far outpaced by the need.
Mechanics are aging out of the workforce at the same rate as pilots are.
The demand is there for the A&P mechanics. So you get your A&P, you get out in the world.
Wow. So Mike, I'm sure there's young people watching this right now saying, that seems like a cool field to get into. Give us an idea of salaries in the aviation industry right now.
Boy, it's a constantly changing number. But in general, we say a brand new licensed mechanic can see a starting wage from $22 to $27 per hour.
Wow.
And then it goes up from there.
And pilots?
Oh my goodness, pilots, gosh, first year salaries in many cases are $90,000.
No kidding.
That's usually they get some sign-on bonuses, and so it's a really significant number.
Sure. Well, tell us about the process. If somebody is watching this and is interested, they go on your website, and then is there a form to fill out, or how do you work with your clients?
We want to make it as easy as possible. So you can certainly start on our website, and we've got links there about either requesting more information, filling out an initial questionnaire. We also encourage come and visit us, come and tour the campus, get to look at the facilities and meet the people. And if it's on the pilot side, maybe do a discovery flight, see if it's for you. Mm-hmm. Certainly on the maintenance side, getting out there and looking at what the environment's like and getting a feel. Is this something that you're going to be excited about?
And your main campus is where?
So our main campus is in Denton, Texas. That's where we began. But our other campuses are across Texas and a couple other states, and they're, again, collegiate programs tied to other community colleges.
Outstanding. Well, you've been an amazing guest. We'll have to have you back again soon. We're going to end with the website, which is usaviationacademy.com. The great Mike Sykes. Thanks for coming on the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.